All right, so get ready because today we are going deep into the Amazon with Wizard of the Upper Amazon.
Ooh,
It's the true story of Manuel Cordova Rios
wow.
and his journey from being captured by the Huniku tribe
Okay.
to becoming one of their leaders.
Interesting.
It's got adventure, but it also gives us a look into the Hunikui culture and their relationship with the rainforest.
You know, it really makes you wonder what we even mean by civilization.
Right.
Like, here's Cordova Rios working at a remote rubber camp back in 1907,
Yeah.
probably thinking he's at the edge in the world.
And then, bam, he gets captured by these Hunikui Indians.
Right out of nowhere.
The book describes them as naked, covered in black paint,
Oh, wow.
armed with lances and arrows.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine the terror?
I can only imagine.
It's like this clash between the civilized world
Yeah.
and the indigenous culture.
Yeah, but you have to remember that this idea of savagery, it's usually from the outsider's point of view.
That's a great point, and it makes his integration into the Huniku even more fascinating.
Oh.
The book talks about this brutal journey through the jungle.
Oh, yeah.
He's fighting fatigue, thirst, and this constant
And
fear.
it's a real test.
Totally a trial by fire for him.
And then he finally gets to the village, and it's a complete sensory overload.
It is, and what's interesting is the book points out the chief specifically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says he was this thin, ancient man wearing a simple white garment,
Uh-huh.
and everyone else is naked.
I wonder what that means.
What do you think?
Well, maybe it's a way of showing his authority, you know?
Setting him apart.
Yeah, exactly. Like in many indigenous cultures, clothing and adornment, they can show social hierarchy.
That makes a lot of sense, and right away, Cordova Rios starts seeing these unique cultural practices.
Like what?
Well, there's this captive woman who's brought into the tribe using some kind of herbal remedy.
Interesting.
And then there's this ritualistic first bath for newborns.
It's so fascinating how these practices show their beliefs about healing community and the balance of life and death.
Yeah, it really speaks to how interconnected their worldview is.
Well.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to Nixie-Honey-Thuma, the vision vine, or ayahuasca as most people know it.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, we're talking.
Ayahuasca, it's not just a hallucinogenic for the Huniku.
Right.
It's sacred medicine, a way to explore spiritually and heal and connect with the spirit world.
And for Cordova Rios, it helps him become a part of the tribe.
It does. The book really goes into the details of the ritual, the chants, the smoke, the drinking of the extract.
Powerful stuff.
It sounds intense, like a near-death experience.
It disrupts your consciousness so you can become more aware.
Yeah.
And for Cordova Rios, it actually seems to help him learn the Huniku language.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's like his brain is being rewired.
Well, there's actually a lot of research now about how psychedelics can help people learn and even treat mental health conditions.
Yeah.
Some researchers think that psychedelics can change the pathways in your brain and make it easier to make new connections.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So he's not just tripping out, he's learning faster. Exactly, and he even learns to make the Nixie-Honey-Thuma himself,
He does. He learns from a guy named Nixie Zumawaki.
the maker of the vine extract.
It shows how important mentors are and how knowledge is passed down in the Huniku culture.
It's not something you learn overnight.
Definitely not. It takes years of study and practice.
Years.
It makes you realize that we've lost that in our modern world, that reverence for knowledge.
Absolutely. There's so much depth to their traditions that we're just starting to understand.
Let's talk about their relationship with the rainforest.
Okay?
These guys are masters of survival.
They have to be. Their survival depends on understanding the rainforest.
Their knowledge is incredible.
Like, it's not just practical either, it's spiritual.
Right, like there's this story about Shirikaya, this unlucky hunter.
I remember that one.
He just can't catch anything, and it takes a vision session with the Nixie-Honey-Thuma to figure out why.
Oh, was it?
He wasn't preparing his equipment properly or respecting the spirits.
It shows how the spiritual and practical are connected for them.
It's not enough to have the skills you have to be in harmony with nature.
That's very different from how we approach food today.
For sure, we just grab what we want from the store.
Yeah.
Not a thought about where it came from or the life that was taken to give us that food.
For the Huniku, hunting is sacred. It feeds their body and soul.
And Cordova Rios gets to experience that firsthand when he goes on a night hunt with Texaxo.
That's one of my favorite parts.
They use bird calls and their knowledge of animal behavior.
And a lot of patience.
So much patience. It's amazing they track down these wild pigs. It's like a masterclass in hunting.
It's knowledge passed down through generations.
You can really feel the tension as they wait for the perfect moment to strike.
They rely on their instincts.
It's very different from how we hunt today.
For the Huniku, it's about connecting with the ancestors and the spirits of the forest.
Speaking of connecting with the past, let's talk about storytelling.
Okay.
These aren't just stories. They're a way to pass down knowledge, values, and history.
It's the same for many indigenous cultures.
Right? They use stories to understand the world, teach their kids, and connect with their ancestors.
It's how they keep their culture alive.
And the stories themselves are incredible. Like there's one about a jaguar, an anteater, and a twist that shows their respect for nature.
I love that one.
And then there's Natakoa's story about the harpy eagle snatching a howler monkey.
It's like a nature documentary.
It is, but it's also teaching us about animal behavior and the balance of life.
Exactly.
And then there's Chief Sumu's story about the howler monkeys acting strange.
What was that about?
Turns out they were sensing a storm coming.
Wow.
It's incredible how they can read the signs of nature.
They're really in tune with their surroundings.
It makes you wonder what else they know that we've forgotten.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It's amazing how peaceful and in tune they are. But this peaceful existence, it's not always peaceful.
Right.
The book talks about a conflict they have with another tribe.
Yeah, it really puts their strength to the test.
What I found interesting is how Chief Zumu uses this invasion to unify his tribe.
That's what's so cool about it.
It's not just about protecting what's theirs, it's about reminding everyone who they are.
Exactly. Their identity, their history, their connection to the land.
Yeah, and you see their warrior spirit come alive.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, they do these body painting rituals to prepare for battle.
Intense.
And they even use cacho rifles that they got from trading.
They're not afraid to use new technology.
That's true. It shows that they're not stuck in the past.
They adapt.
They do. So they go to the enemy village ready to fight. And guess what?
What?
It's empty.
It's empty.
Completely abandoned.
Oh, wow. That's anticlimactic.
It is. But Zumu is a smart leader.
What does he do?
He uses this as a win.
How?
He holds the Oma, their victory celebration.
Smart.
It helps him deal with any tension in the tribe and settle arguments.
So he uses this threat from outside to make the tribe stronger on the inside.
Exactly. And it's around this time that Cordova Rios' training with Zumu gets more intense.
What do they focus on?
He learns more about plants and medicine. But he also starts developing these mental abilities, as the book calls them.
Like what?
Clairvoyance, and being able to predict what will happen.
Wait, clairvoyance, like seeing the future?
That's how the book describes it.
I mean, maybe it's not magic. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just a really deep understanding of how everything is connected.
An intuition.
Yeah, built up from living in the rainforest for so long.
It sounds like Zumu is preparing Cordova Rios for a leadership role.
Yeah, like he knows his time is coming to an end and he needs to pass on his knowledge.
To make sure the tribe survives.
Right, they're facing a lot of changes.
One of the biggest is their contact with the outside world. Cordova Rios teaches them how to harvest rubber.
Caucho.
Yeah, to trade for goods. And that changes their way of life.
It's a big shift going from being isolated to being part of the global economy.
It is, and it's cool to see how they struggle at first, but then they get good at it.
They learn fast.
Their first trip to the trading post is hilarious. They're amazed by everything they can get.
Like kids in a candy store. But it also shows they're smart.
How so?
They're not just taking anything, they're choosing what they want to add to their culture.
But this contact with the outside world also causes problems.
In what way?
There's tension in the tribe about attacks on rubber tappers.
It's the clash between their values and the modern world.
Right, it's not simple at all.
No.
Cordova Rios is stuck in the middle. He wants peace, but some of the tribe want revenge.
For what happened to them in the past.
It makes you think about what justice really means.
It's
He gets to decide what's right or wrong.
especially when it comes to different cultures.
Cordova Rios tries to find a solution.
Does he?
He leads an expedition back to the tribe's old home on the Rio Tarawaca.
Anawaya,
It's like a way for them to reconnect with their past.
a pilgrimage.
Yeah, but when they get back to the present, things aren't good.
What happens?
Rubber prices are dropping, and Cordova Rios is getting
He
frustrated.
feels like he's losing control.
The outside world is closing in, and he can't protect the Huni Ku.
What a difficult situation.
It is, and then things get even worse. Cordova Rios is attacked and almost killed by an arrow.
Oh, wow, an assassination attempt.
It shows how dangerous things have become.
That changes everything.
It breaks the peace and shows how much anger is still there.
What happens to Cordova Rios?
He's shaken and desperate to escape.
Can't blame him.
The book talks about one last really intense Honizuma session.
What's it like?
It's terrifying, full of horrible visions.
Oh, man.
But afterwards, he feels a sense of release.
Like, oh, weight has been lifted.
Yeah, like he had to face his own darkness before he could move on.
It's a powerful idea.
It is. But he doesn't stay in the jungle forever.
What does he do?
He goes back to the trading post one last time and decides to leave.
He chooses to go back to the outside world.
The journey downriver is so different from when he first arrived.
He's a changed man.
He is. But going back to civilization isn't easy.
What's it like?
To shock clothes. Feels. Weird food is different.
He's not used to it anymore.
It's like he's caught between two worlds.
Belonging to neither.
And then when he gets back to his hometown in Quitos, it's bittersweet.
What?
He sees his father again.
But
He finds out his mother and sister have died.
That's sad.
It reminds you that time keeps moving, even when you're going through big changes.
Yeah, it
You know?
really makes you think about what he went through, all that change, and then coming home to even more loss. It's a lot to process. What are your biggest takeaways from all of this? What makes his story more than just adventure?
Well, for me, it's how it changes our ideas about progress and civilization. He goes from working in the rubber industry, what we think of as modern society, to living with this primitive tribe.
Right.
But with this tribe, he finds a deeper connection to nature and himself and learns a whole new way of looking at the world.
It makes you think about what we really mean by civilized.
Yeah, is it technology or stuff, or is it living with nature and respecting life and knowing our place in the bigger picture?
Those are tough questions, especially with how complicated our world is these days. It's true, we have so much information and technology all the time. It's easy to forget the simple things, the important things.
This story reminds us that we can learn from these cultures, not just about nature, but about ourselves and what people are capable of.
Yeah, there are other ways to be in the world.
So for our listeners who want to learn more, what's one last thought you'd leave them with, something to think about after this deep dive?
I think at its heart, this is a story about how powerful isolation can be, not just being alone in the Amazon, but being away from your own culture and having to see the world in a totally new way.
Right.
Cordova Rios loses his old self and becomes someone new, someone who can connect those two worlds.
It's like we all need to go on that journey in some way.
Maybe we do step outside what we know and challenge what we think is true and be open to new things.
I love that idea. And
Sure.
if you're feeling inspired to do that, I definitely recommend Wizard of the Upper Amazon. You won't forget this story.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.